What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, just another PokeTuber, coach of your Piedmont Triad Kickers, coming at you today with our Season 1 draft analysis for Josh's League. It is we got invited to the inaugural season by our good buddy Josh, who's the coach of the Starter Supreme. So if you watch the SDA or MDL, you're probably familiar with who he is. He's co-hosting this league with Mr. G, who, if you're familiar with the MDL, you have an idea who that is as well. They are both pretty good, pretty strong competitors, good coaches. And I'm a firm believer that the owner of a league tells you a lot about a league before you even get into the league. So the fact that both of these guys are the ones hosting it, I'm feeling pretty good about this league, feeling pretty good about it. And like I said, or maybe I did not say, I can't remember. This is, well, if it's not obvious, this is the inaugural league, not the inaugural league, the inaugural season. So, first season, and I'm very happy, very excited that these guys thought to invite me to it. So, just to go over some of the rules that revolve around this league. First and foremost, we get 115 points to draft 9 to 11 Pokemon, as well as, and out of that 115, 32 of those points can be used to pick 1 to 3 Terra captains. This is a high tier Terra league, so you have things that normally wouldn't be able to Terra that can Terra, like for example your Zarudes, your Raging Bolts, your Thunderuses, the Ogidogis, Salamences, stuff like that. Of course, the broken stuff can't Terra, so like no Roaring Moon, no Dragonite, no Gouging Fire, none of these guys can Terra. And this is not Ubers, so this is just straight up high tier. This league has 9 weeks and then playoffs, so expect to see the Piedmont Triad Kickers here for the next 12 weeks. Upload is not required, however, clearly we're going to be uploading, so otherwise I wouldn't be making this draft analysis. So you guys can expect us to post the content. In regards to my positioning in the draft, it was kind of buns, not gonna lie, because your boy ended up number 9 out of 16. All things considered, I still feel like I ended up with a pretty solid team, but it's like, bro, number 9. I don't know what it is about this spot, but this spot has really been loving me lately, and I don't love it, so, But all things considered, like I said, I feel like I made the best out of it. So, without further ado, let's get into the roster. The first round draft pick should not even come as a surprise, so I'm not even going to bother trying to hype the guy up because y'all just know this is coming. Our first round draft pick was none other than Cinderace. We're using Sanji, who is our unrivaled Cinderace from the beginning of Scarlet and Violet that we caught in that raid they did. So we're going to be using him this time around. Libero is going to be the main ability we use. However, we might occasionally use Blaze. But yeah, Cinderace is here to be he's a fast physical wall breaker who has utility options. He can pivot, he gets priority, he gets a lot of moves to make use of said Libero. And like I said, he has utility options as well. So he's pretty much the jack of all trades. He's at least the master of being a fast physical wall breaker, which is going to be the primary thing we use him for. However, we can get other uses out of him. I'm not going to go into too much on him because y'all know how I feel about Cinderace. Next on the team roster is our first Terra captain for this draft. So I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm going to make sure I get some of the broken stuff too, because I want everyone else around me to have broken Terra captains, and then I have like these mid ones. So since Cinderace is a fast physical wall breaker, I decided maybe my next pick / Terra captain should be a special wall breaker. So even though he's not the fastest thing in the world, he's fast enough to make him work. It's the one, the only Kakashi the Thunderous Theory. It's going to be our first Terra captain. Like I said, is a special wall breaker with base 145 special attack. However, he does have 105 attack, which, I mean, he does have a move pool that we can use to make the use of that, and he does also get bulk up. So we could set up on the physical and run a physical Thunders if we really wanted to, but we'll probably be using that 145 special attack more often than not, especially since he does have access to setup options like Nasty Plot, or we can just click agility in like a late game situation and let him just sweep, because that 145 special attack by itself can carry him through like late game situations, because if your team is chipped, you're probably not taking hits from this guy that well, especially since he can Terra. Not the bulkiest fellow in the world, but at least he's bulky enough to not just get straight up one-shotted by like neutral hits. 101 speed is not the fastest, however, like I say, it does get agility, and then we're going to have a guy later on in the draft that's going to help us out with this, speed control and stuff. But yeah, this is Thundurus, mainly here to be a special wall breaker, but he has other uses than just being a special wall breaker. Next on the team roster, so we got our fast, we got our physical wall breaker, we have a special wall breaker. So I thought for my next pick, not only would it be a Terra Captain, but I also wanted to get something that's kind of on the bulky side, and more or less it has longevity out of it. And before we get into this guy, I want to say one thing I do appreciate about Cinderace and Thundurus. Both of them have access to pivoting moves, so Cinderace gets a U-turn, Thundurus gets Volt Switch. This next guy cannot pivot, but once again, he's here for the longevity, because our next draft pick was none other than Garp, the Okidogi, who is our other Terra Captain. I feel like him and Thundurus slightly have some synergy, for example. Mainly like the ground and the rock. Like, Thundurus can come in on ground moves, and then Okidogi can come in on like rocks and stuff like that. But Okidogi has access to Toxic Chain and Guard Dog for his abilities. If I didn't mention, Thundurus gets Volt Absorb, so basically if he hits with Electric move, we get HP. But anyway, Garp has Toxic Chain, Guard Dog, so anytime we hit something, if I'm not mistaken, it's badly poisoned, so we have a 30% chance to badly poison stuff. And then because of Guard Dog, if we start setting up with like Bulk Up, you cannot come in and phase us out, and you also cannot intimidate us, because then we'll just get an attack boost instead. And you also can't, well, you could burn us if we don't Terra, but because of the Terra option, we can, go Terra Fire, or we can just run Lumberry. So we have ways to make sure this guy can do his job, which is mainly to set up and just sweep. He's not the fastest thing in the world with base 80 speed, but however, between 88 HP, 115 defense, and 86 SPDF, he has a lot of staying power, especially since he has 128 attack, and his main setup would be Bulk Up, and then you have Drain Punch. So just the combo of those two things, he can stay around for a really long time. And then Ghost types would typically be able to wall that, but they can't because we do have access to Knockoff. And then Fairy types can't really wall us because we're also a part Poison type. So those those Bulk Up boosted poison jabs or those gunk shots, like, yeah, those will hurt. So this thing to me is kind of like the perfect Mon, like from an offensive perspective. Perfect in regards to the coverage he gets. The speed leaves a lot to be desired, but once again, he has longevity because of Drain Punch mainly, so we can keep this guy healthy, and he is our Terra Captain, so we're going to get a lot out of him. So we already have our fast physical wall breaker, we have a special wall breaker who's not the fastest in the world, and then we have this guy who's kind of mainly here to be like just a bulky setup Mon. So I really did want a fast special wall breaker. So for our next round pick, somehow this guy made it to this round, but we still picked him up. It's Flash the Latios, so Dragon Psychic typing, Levitate for the ability, which really helps out. So we basically have 2 ground immunities while having 2 mons that are weak to ground. So I feel like defensively that works. It synergizes. 130 special attack, 110 speed. So yeah, this guy's here to just nuke stuff pretty much. 90 attack makes his physical move pool somewhat usable, and he does have pretty good bulk overall. So we can get some good staying power out of Flash the Latios. Not really much more that needs to be said. Bro is just here to just, punch holes in the teams. So with this offensive mode we have, every Mon on this team can actually set up to sweep. So I wanted a Mon that could maybe support the team and help like the setups happen a lot more often than not. So for our 5th round, we decided to pick up none other than Loki, the Grimmsnarl, who is going to be rocking Prankster for the ability pretty much all the time. We are a Dark Fairy type, so it gives me a Dark type and a Fairy type. Two of the best offensive types that you could have, because Dark is spammable and Fairy's just really good in general. So he has a pretty good move pool for like attacking. So we have like False Surrender. I believe he gets Darkest Lariat. Then we get like Sucker Punch for priority. We get Spirit Break, which lowers special attack. We get Play Rough, which is also a really strong move. And then we have a pretty good move pool to make use of Prankster. Like we get Dual Screens, we get T-Wave, we get Taunt, we get Parting Shot. So we have ways. So this thing can be pretty annoying, but he's mainly here to support the team. Not much more than that. So next on the team roster, I wanted Serena. Serena got sniped, so I'm sitting here like, okay, what's the best replacement for Serena? And as I'm going through the board, I realized the best replacement would be probably none other than this guy right here. We picked up Usopp the Decidueye, who is going to mainly be using Overgrow because I don't think Long Reach is the best ability. We're pretty slow, 70 speed. However, he does get priority in Shadow Sneak and Sucker Punch, as well as access to freaking Swords Dance, so we can definitely do some damage with those moves if we wanted to. But he also just gets other good moves, we get Leaf Blade. I can't remember if this thing gets Poltergeist or not. I think it does, but if not, then the next best move would probably be Shadow Claw. We have 107 attack and 100 special attack, so this thing could be a mixed attacker. We could, or just invest entirely to the physical side or entirely to the special side. Like, he can do that. He has good enough bulk, like all around, to not get one-shotted by most stuff, maybe not even two-shotted. And then he does have recovery in the form of Roost and Synthesis, so we can get longevity out of Usopp. And he's also a defogger, so that's going to really be beneficial, because for those of you that don't know, defog does not remove our screens, so we can defog with our screens up and keep our screens up. And then also this mon does get access to pivoting as well, so basically every mon on my team so far can pivot except for Okidogi. So to me, Decidueye is the jack of all trades, master of none, so you never know what to expect when we bring this guy. Next on the team roster, so as things stand, we have like 3 mons that are weak to ice, so I felt like we need to start building some, getting some resistances, even though ice isn't like the most common type, but we still don't want to be weak to it because it is open Terra. So our next round draft pick, and it's kind of crazy that I drafted this because the guy who's hosting this league is literally the coach of the Starter Supremes. He has 3 starters on his logos, and here we are with 3 starters on our team because our next round pick is none other than Empoleon, Oswald. I wanted Blastoids, but well, Blastoids got sniped. So we have Torrent and Competitive as our abilities. So basically we want to set hazards. We have a spin blocker in Decidueye, and then with Empoleon's Competitive, if you want to defog, okay, go for it, because we do have 111 a special attack, which is high enough that at +2 we're probably going to one-shot like a lot of stuff, so you might not want to defog on us, and we're going to make sure you can't rapid spin on us either. And it's also to punish the defog in case someone tries to defog our screens away, because, well, Empoleon he's a monster if you let him set up. He can also function as like a special wall as well. And then even though we have 60 speed, we have agility, so we can always, boost up speed and, do something with that. Empoleon's also a good use of, he can use a lot of different items, like he can use Weakness Policy, he could use AV, you could throw leftovers in this thing and make them really bulky. Empoleon can do a whole bunch of stuff. Mainly see my friend Scorpion use it, and I thought it was good when he was using it, so maybe we can replicate that success. So, Empoleon, thank you for being aboard. And then Decidueye, well, my friend Zach Mander makes it look really fun, so I thought, okay, let me try this guy out. But, we're past the backstories now. On to the rest of the team. So, my aim was to try to draft as much new stuff as possible, but of course, you get to a point where, alright, we can't really keep drafting everything new, so I'd rather have consistency than just begging or praying on something. So for our next round draft pick, I really needed a ground type, preferably a bulky one. Preferably one that can set hazards as well, so we can free up slots on Empoleon. So we went to Old Reliable, the one, the only, Mudsdale, Hapu. Mainly here to be like a physical wall, can set hazards. If I'm not mistaken, you get Roar, so you can phase stuff out. We have Stamina as an ability, so, you attack us, we get a defense boost, and this thing can just stay alive for a long time. Behind screens, this thing could be very annoying. Mainly here to be a physical wall and get up and set hazards though. Not really much more need to say about Miss Hapu. Thank you for being here. Next on the team roster, so I had a decision to make. It was either I get my webs or I get my spinner. I had a feeling in my soul that I should get the webs first, and I'm glad I went with my gut feeling, because I actually sniped like 3 people off this next pick, which is going to come very surprising when y'all see who this guy is. So, going back into the fact that I said to draft, stuff that I've already used before, our next round draft pick was none other than Peter Parker the Spidops, who, you know, Insomnia is going to be an ability we have, but we can also use Stakeout, I guess, sometimes, because he does have a good enough attack stat that you can make use of like those Stakeout boosted like U-turns, I guess. But Spido's mainly here to set webs, and then he does have access to every hazard besides Stealth Rock. So we have spikes, we have T-spikes, we can phase things out with Circle Throw, we can pivot with U-turn, and I want to say this thing might get Sucker Punch. I could be wrong about that, but if he does, though, that just means he has pivoting, hazards, priority, phasing. You know, Spidops for his price, which is 2 points, is actually worth he does a lot. He does a lot. I want to say he even gets knockoff as well. So, you know, Spidops, I don't know why you're 2 points. You should be like 4, but hey, you know, it is what it is. I'm glad to have you aboard for the, you know, again. Next on the roster, as I alluded to, we got our spinner. If you've been following the channel for a while, you can probably guess what the spinner is, but before I even get into it, because our spinner is none other than Reginald the Komala, Comatose for the ability. So this thing can actually switch in, mainly going to be, like, one thing we can get a lot of use out of is having him switch into, like, status moves, because you can't status Komala. Pretty bulky enough on the special side. The physical side is a lot to be desired. However, he does get access to bulk up, and I mean, we do have screens, so we could maybe get longevity out of Komala. Komala has a pretty high attack stat with a pretty colorful move pool, so you know, this thing can be an offensive threat. We also get priority in with Sucker Punch. We get pivoting with U-turn, and if we want to be cheeky, he does get Wish in case we want to, like, you know, give some things its HP back. As long as we don't let stuff get too chipped, I guess we could use that. You know, Komala can do a little bit of everything. But yeah, mainly here to be a rapid spinner, not gonna like hype it up too much. So we had 14 points left, and I couldn't figure out what to get. I was originally gonna get a rock type, like Lycanroc or Garganacl, but then I remember something. I had Garganacl once, I hated it. Lycanroc, we already have enough speed and priority, so I was like, oh, how else could I use like my points? And something I thought about, Empoleon is a fake fire resist, so I was like, screw it, let's just get another water type who can actually resist fire, because we have enough mons for like electric, because Empoleon, the only weakness it shares to this next Pokemon is electricity. We have 2 electric immunities and 2 electric resist, so we wasn't really worried about getting a second water type. So for our next round draft pick, we picked up none other than Raymundo, the Azumarill, paying homage to my friend Raymond. So 100 HP. The 50 attack is deceiving because of huge power, its actual attack stat is like a lot closer to like base 140-ish, like 140 something. It's a lot closer to that than it is 50. We have good enough bulk to get like staying power at this thing, especially behind screens. So, you know, like we can do like belly drum, we could do like AV sets, we could do choice band sets. Like, you know, this thing could be pretty much can be an offensive powerhouse because of the screens. Like, it's kind of crazy how much potential this thing has with screens, and we have a good amount of like poison switch-ins and or resist. So, you know, we're not really worried about the stacking of weaknesses and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? I've been wanting to use a Azumarill for a while. I'm glad I finally have an excuse to use it. Welcome aboard, Raymundo. So I've said everything that needs to be said about the team. Not really much more needs to be said. So without further ado, guys, this is pretty much the end. This is the whole roster. I don't know what to expect from this league. However, I've seen the coaches. I know for a fact all these coaches are really good competitors. So I expect to have a lot of fun, competitive type battles, and hopefully you guys enjoy the ride. Thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please remember to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace out.